Welcome to the Low Carb USA podcast, where we seek to inspire you to help us build this community. I'm Doug Reynolds.
And this is Pam Devine.
Okay, so I'm here this morning with Jess Dudley. Now, Jess has been at our events now since 2017, every year, and she's done a breakout talk at the last two of them. And her real focus is small groups and how motivating that can be and how that helps people to really stay involved in this LCHF lifestyle. So Jess, welcome.
Hey.
And just tell us a bit about what you do with these small groups, why they're so effective and all of that sort of stuff.
Well, when you go on that low carb approach, first off, it's confusing. And you need a place where you can work that out. So one of the big facets of having community is you do it together. Everybody gets interested in different points of low carb, and it gives you a place to sort yourself out and sort your food out, and everybody comes into an understanding of the way things are done and the way you can do it better and the way you can do it faster and the way you can ease these things into your lives. So community is this place of gathering of information, but it has the human touch that when you come to a group and you're confused and you've been kind of isolated and you can't win with food, you come into a room of people who are on base. They've gotten going. They've hit the ball and they've gotten on base. And we come in, strike out kings and queens. We've struck out. We can't figure out what's going on. So one of the biggest things that community is a place you can get together and share this journey with food, coming out of maybe bad behavior with food, coming out of obesity, or maybe coming out of some of the most prevalent metabolic diseases that are out there now. So that's what we do. We have community in homes, in schools, not schools, we have them in homes. Right now I have 6 groups, 3 groups that meet twice a month. One is in a coffee shop, one is in a living room, and one is in a classroom at a church.
Outside of the actual meetings, how do you get them to communicate? Is it just at the meetings, or is there a...
No. So we use Facebook a lot. Each of these groups has a Facebook page. Each of these groups has a leader besides myself. So I have a wingman. I may start the group, but I've got someone running it. And that person starts a Facebook group. Right now, I'd say the top way these people get around with each other is texting. They can reach out. They do a little group text. Most of these groups are 6 to 10 people or less. And they're off. They're doing a challenge. We like to do challenges because it moves people forward. So the challenge might be everybody take a walk 3 times this week. And what they do is they do the walk. They're so proud of themselves. They take pictures of it and they text each other. Mm-hmm. And so the texting is huge. The Facebook group helps those who are not quite as involved. There's a lot of people who sit on the fringe. Right. A lot of people sit on the fringe and they like to watch, and social media also helps them stay separated. They can watch, they can figure it out. They can maybe think about trying again, because everybody who comes into community to diet has tried and tried and tried. And do we give this a chance? But it's the people that win each other over.
So you're so passionate about trying to help these small groups get going and you help support them. Does that come from like a personal place? Was it... Because I know you've got an amazing story, which I think you should tell us right now, but I'm just wondering how that translated into your passion for trying to help these small groups.
Well, I grew up in the southern United States, and there's a church on every corner. And down in the Atlanta area, there are mega churches. And I go to a medium-sized church. But for 25 years, what they have done to reach the one is small groups. Groups that are usually between 8 and 15 people. They're often centered in a home over a meal, or maybe in a coffee shop, or maybe over an activity. And they gather, they have a leader. They have a leader who's been trained just to be warm and hospitable and gracious and lead the group for a season of time. All of our groups right now are running either in the summer, they're 6 weeks. In the fall, they run 12 weeks. But they have groups at the park. They're walkers. You have a runners group. You have a coffee group. You have older women group. You have younger women group. And I think in my story in my story, you would hear, that's the most natural expression. That's the most natural next step for me. But I didn't start with a group. Everyone saw my transformation on Facebook after I got ready to go public with it. At first I was doing it for a year. I didn't say a word. And then I knew that if I wanted to stay in the game, I needed to do something besides just eat the next meal, clean, right. And I knew I wanted to help because everybody came up to me. What has happened to you? I work in a gym. What has happened to you? And I was like, I am not telling anyone I'm on a high-fat diet in a gym. Are you? This is fat-phobic world right here. You know, they're clinging to their naked broccoli and chicken breasts and rice cakes. There's no way. But people would not leave me alone. So I went on Facebook and I said, I'm looking to mentor 3 people. And over the course of that weekend, I had over 50 people reach out to me with long stories. They PMs lasting for 10 minutes. You have to pick me. And basically, I ended up picking 8 people. They were all very overweight. They all had to go get their doctor's agreeableness with the whole thing. And we walked together and we met once a month or twice a month for a year. And it really, you know, here's a ketogenic diet. Actually, they started with Whole30 so they could get the bad food out. And then every month we moved forward. And it was so funny. All the Whole30 people, all of them came to me and they said, I like Whole30. It's a lot of work, but I'm having trouble with the fruit and the potatoes. What do you do? I don't eat fruit and potatoes. Oh. So basically, out of that, I started to realize people, want to gather. They want to belong, and they need a leader. That's all they need, someone they trust. So I started another group, and then our church came and said, would I take a group of women through it, sponsored for a year? And then we started doing that, and the next thing you know, I had a men's group, I had the church group, and I had 4 groups in different locations. And I would spend time with everyday people and show them how to do it, what to do, you know, how to do it. Clean up your house and have them in. Meet at a coffee shop. Have a subject. Talk about that subject for 3 or 4 minutes and then open it up for discussion. As a leader, step back from talking and let them talk and let them bond. We have people who love to be with people, and I've just kind of tasked them, go spread love, just be friendly. And we have these topics. I've got a couple of nurses, and they'll get up and kind of explain what the blood panel is all about. They'll explain what lipolysis is all about. They'll talk about just medical things. It's very much like an AA meeting in that what is said here stays here, but we're welcoming them all. And I'm holding down 20 to 25 people every 2 weeks that come back. And now they're starting to bring a couple of friends here and there.
So is it actually growing into a bigger group, or are you?
I wouldn't say it's growing bigger, but I think the relationships are beginning to form.
Okay.
I don't think I'm as much into more as can we really impact a few. Could we help really change your life? That won't happen in a meeting. That won't happen in a month. That may not happen in a year. I think Dr. Sivas is understanding that this is, you know, substance abuse for most of us. And then I think Joan, I don't know if she's PhD, yeah. Joan mentioned that because it's food, we've been dealing with it since birth.
Right.
So it's a place where you can come. We're going to hold a space for you, and we're going to love you and accept you where you are. I read a book recently called The Power of Habit. And in this book, they examined products, people, and companies that changed and became better. And they looked at AA, and they looked all about AA. What was it about AA that just is still making it happen today? And this is the line, and it blew me away, and it's changed everything for me. And I will keep doing this if one shows. Community creates belief. Mm. And when you get 3 or 4 believers, people who eat this way, and it's changing their lives, they're the most excited. they're the most impassioned, and they're the most willing to go from sitting back and consuming information to helping produce it. You get those people going in a group and you have a synergy.
Right.
Because we believe more for you than you believe for yourself right now.
Yeah. I seem to remember it was the guy, I forget his name now, the guy that started AA.
Bill.
And when he very first started that, it was like his statement was, it takes two people to have a meeting.
Yes.
Right. And as long as two people show up,
yes,
you've got something. And I feel like there's so, we are on our final day here at this conference, and we were just talking about this before we started the podcast, but the level of inspiration and community that's kind of developed over these last 3 days is incredible.
it is.
But I fear exactly what you say, is that people go home and then it starts dissipating. And
You're so right.
And if they, hopefully some of them came to your breakout talk about these small groups and realize that if they go home and start creating that, not because I think it's not only inspiring those other people that are in the group, but for yourself, even the leader of the group.
Yes.
Without that group for them to lead, their life becomes a little less meaningful and a little less meaningful. And so, their dedication is a little less, and then they can fall off the wagon or something. And
it gives you a place to show up for, and it gives you a place to show up strong for others. And that's what that's what naturally happens as a leader. Man, I'm here to grow and learn and bring back information for my people, my tribe. My tribe needed a leader. They believed it was me. So I show up strong for them, but they show up strong and believe in me. And they all knew when I was speaking. They've all said their energy prayers and all that. And they've all texted in, how did it go? What's this podcast? When can we see it? They're all asking, when can we see the podcast?
Right.
Well, you can't see it till he puts it out. But it gives you something to show up strong for. And you start to change. And then you've got people you can reach out to who get it. That's all they want is, does anyone here get this? This is hard. That's chocolate we're talking about. And they'll nod. Everyone goes, yeah, we know. And now you have someone who gets you. It gets it. And then as you open up, they start to get you. And they feel good because they're contributing and helping. But I think that I did the Real Meal Revolution certification for coaching about 4 years ago. And not being in the clinical world, I only have one thing I can bring to the table, my story. That's it. My story and the desire to help empower you to go have your conversations, because I'm not clinical.
Yeah.
But I can take that story anywhere.
No, and we've talking about it all through this conference. It's that the science is so important, but at the end of the day, what people really relate to is real stories.
Yeah.
Real people that have had success, and not only success, but have struggled, and then people can start relating. And I think that's why Dr. Cyrus is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because he has suffered this serious sugar addiction his whole life. And so when he talks from the bottom of his heart.
Yes.
And I, in the beginning, I always couldn't, and I saw that he was so powerful, and so he commands attention, and he has that personality, but I think a lot of it is because of his genuineness, because he really does care.
Yes.
And he cares because he understands, because he's been through it and he's going through it. Like every day is a struggle for him. And so people can relate to that. So it's awesome.
And I get very bold. I try to tell this most honest truth. I was filled with shame. I was ashamed. And I was trying to hide in plain sight at over 230 pounds. And I was in a church atmosphere that said we should be living our best lives. And I'm like, just want to go home and eat.
Yeah.
And I tell that, and I was confused, and I'd lost my hope. And I'm a person of faith. You don't lose your hope. You're not supposed to. Well, I lost mine. And I mean, I walk in a room, and that's usually what I say. I was fat. I was depressed. I didn't care really. it got so bad if I woke up the next day or not. My kid was grown. I'd done my part. I mean, I had a great job in the health industry that I couldn't show up with a smile for because it was such a disappointment to everybody. I lost all my personal training clients, but I have rebuilt all of that. And it may take a little while, but I'm working on a book, and the book is going to be a life put back together. That's hard to say, but it's the truth.
Right.
And you'll come talk to me if I tell you I've had to put my life back together. You know, and for me, low carb quiets food. For me, it gets food back into a more neutral place where I can then work around it and begin to build life again, reestablish. It's not like you get this magic thing. You feel good, but now take that energy and get back to living. So at Find Your Food, my little company and group of people, find your food, find your life again, and live. And life's been displaced, and they're lost, and they don't know who they are or even where they're going. And they're afraid someone will figure that out. And I did. And I'm like, that was me. Oh, but you don't have to stay there.
No,
and low carb really makes that possible for a whole lot of people.
Right.
It gives us that reprieve and the ability to recontrol ourselves and regulate ourselves.
So you actually help people to create their own groups and stuff, right? So
I do.
So
People come.
How do people get hold of you to get that help from you?
Okay.
I'll put it down in the show notes as well. We'll just tell people.
Well, you can reach out to me by email, findyourfood2@gmail.com. That's the number 2, findyourfood2@gmail.com. Findyourfood.org is my website. There's a contact button on there. I do have a Find Your Food Facebook group. It's very quiet there.
Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah.
doing this with us, and being here at this conference and supporting us. You're doing great things. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This great conference, y'all need to come to this conference. This is one of the most beautiful places on the earth, and it is just gorgeous outside, and the content that Doug brings in is so valuable. Some of it's over your head, but you could sit next to someone you could become a friend with for life. So there's something on every angle for all of this. Great meals in the evening, great opportunities to socialize, and we don't have to do this alone. We just don't.
That's a really good point. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So you'll notice that we haven't had any commercials at all during this podcast, and we intend to keep it like that if we possibly can. But at the same time, the work that we're doing and the efforts that we're going to get the clinical guidelines done, there's just so much to do. And in order to really, for this to be sustainable, we need your help. And so what we're asking you to do is go and take a look at our Patreon account. There's actually quite a few options there. It provides you with options to actually go onto our site, and there's membership options there where you can get access to all our video content and other perks of being a member, or even just $1 a month. Become a patron, and you can find that in patreon.com/LowCarbUSA. I'll put it in the show notes and in the episode notes so that you can find it. And help us to change the world.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people take a look at the conference registrations, and I think they immediately assume that, from a distance, that these might be money-making endeavors that we're doing with these conferences. And it's hard to admit, and it's hard to tell people that we really aren't making any money from these. All 11 of the events that we've done have not been a profitable endeavor. We've literally had to dip into our credit, basically. It wasn't anything. It wasn't like we actually had a pocket to dip into and put money into. We've had to take loans and get a lot of credit for these events. So any little bit that you can help, every ticket that's sold, every little bit of $1 a month in a Patreon account will help us to fund our endeavors and fund the programs so that we continue to do some of these other things that are free content. The project management that we're doing on the clinical guidelines will really go a long way.